My God, this is the most difficult video I've ever had to make. Hi, my name is Roland Hume and I am a writer and an author. Although if you go to Amazon.com and Google my name, you won't see much there to write home about. And that's because I am a writer and an author and I primarily write and publish under a pen name. And pen name is Simone Scarlett. I write romance novels. And this video is me officially acknowledging that I'm Simone Scarlett, and I'm terrified to make this video. I'm utterly terrified to make this video. I'm not terrified in case my mum or my dad or my vicar or my former co-workers find out, because most people who know me in the real world already know that I write romance novels. I'm not ashamed of it. In fact, I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of what I've achieved as an author and the stories I've been able to tell. I am terrified because of the people who read the Simone Scarlett books, because of the people who've ever left a review for a Simone Scarlett book, or have ever sent Simone Scarlett an email to say that they liked this book or they didn't like this book. I'm utterly terrified to officially acknowledge being Simone Scarlett, because what if I disappoint them? What if I make them angry? And we live in such a sensitive time. Maybe some of the stuff that I've written that would be fine if a female author wrote it is not going to be okay if a male author wrote it. I don't know. I'm terrified. This video is the most terrifying video I've ever had to make, because the people who read my books and the people who are part of my subscriber list and the community that has come up around these books are so important to me. I've wanted to be a writer since I was 9 years old. My mother was a writer, is a writer. And I remember at 9 I used to bang out stories on a big electric IBM typewriter. And when I was 12 they got me a typewriter, I'm that old, and I started writing my stories. And I grew up surrounded by books. Books have always been like a passion of mine. My parents literally had 3,000 books, and we had all my father's science fiction paperbacks, and then you had my mother's bonk busters and women's sagas, and then there were the books that kind of like merged between the two. There were the action adventure stories, the Wilbur Smith and the Dick Francis, and I grew up in an environment in which books excited me and I loved reading them, and I was really strongly encouraged to become a writer. And I spent my entire life trying to be a writer. I must have received millions and millions of rejection slips, or else I was too scared to even send books off to a publisher because I knew I'd get a rejection slip. And then in 2013, everything changed. I mean, writing, even though I knew I would never be able to publish them anywhere, I continued to write just to share stuff with people. And I used to write steamy stories, erotica. And in 2013, I saw that you could self-publish on Amazon, and so I decided I was going to publish some of these short stories. And I'm not ashamed of any of them, but when I decided to do that, I made the conscious decision, okay, I'm going to write under a pen name, because I'm going to be publishing erotic short stories, and I don't necessarily want anybody typing in Roland Hume into Google to immediately go to an Amazon page where there are dozens of books about a naughty housewife and the 4 delivery guys. So I had to pick a pen name. And I picked Simone Scarlett because I love the name Simon, like Simon Templar, the saint. And before I hit published on my first book, somebody else who was doing this was like, oh, if you're going to be in the erotica and romance category, you should have a female pen name. Because female pen names sell 8 times as many books as male pen names. I have no idea if that's true or not. And at the time, I didn't see anything wrong with that. So I added an E to Simone Scarlett, and it became Simone Scarlett, and I hit publish. And it changed my life. I hit publish on some of these short stories that I've written that languished on a hard disk somewhere, and people started buying them. I started making money as a writer. Oh my God, it was so incredible. It was so incredible. It was so validating. I spent my entire life trying to be a writer. And then in 2013, Amazon gave me the opportunity to, and I was a good enough writer that people bought the stuff that I wrote. It was amazing. In some ways it was the moment that made my life, in some ways it was the moment that broke it, because I was like, I could be a writer. So I continued writing and publishing under Simone Scarlett. And I had a plan at the time. I was like, oh, I'll continue writing this erotica, these steamy short stories, because I like writing them, and they make me a little bit of money. But I'll write under my own name. I'll write books under Roland Hume. And I never did. I had some that I published sort of years earlier, but I never wrote anything new under my name. And why? Because I didn't have a voice. Who the hell was I? I got into writing because of the James Bond books and because of the Simon Templar Saint books. And I wanted to tell stories like that, swashbuckling stories of adventures and heroism and stuff. But you know what? I think that's an oversaturated market. So I think, I just looked at it and I was like, okay, you don't need another middle-aged British white guy writing derivative adventure stories or derivative espionage stories, especially not one who doesn't actually have any experience in espionage. So I satisfied my writing urges with my pen name Simone Scarlett, because I was writing something else, and I've always been into like romance and blockbusters and female fiction. There are certain authors, there are two authors, I've got their books here, Jilly Cooper and Fiona Walker. And Fiona Walker is sort of the inventor of chick lit, and they wrote really, really amazing stories that were romance stories or bed hopping sagas. And even though they're targeted towards female readers, like, I would wolf these books up. My father would wolf these books up. I grew up in a really nice house in which books weren't like men's books or women's books. Books were just books. And so I had an equal opportunity upbringing, and I really learned to love romance and women's fiction and stuff like that. And so in 2015 I was like, I really want to write a book. I really want to write a book that people were actually going to read. And I wrote the first of the novels that I published under the name Simone Scarlett. And I sat down, I was like, okay, what am I going to write? And I thought, I write erotica, so maybe moving into romance is fairly seamless. And I need to pick romantic heroes that women will be attracted to. And so I was doing a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time, and we were watching all the MMA fights. So I thought, hey, I'll do a sports series about MMA fighters. And that's how I started. That's how I moved from writing erotica into writing full-length novels. And I published them under Simone Scarlett because, I already had this name. I don't necessarily want anybody Googling Roland Hume and looking up sports romances any more than I want them looking up erotica. I imagine the thing about female authors selling 8 times as many books is just as valid in romance as it is in erotica. So I kept the name Simone Scarlett and started writing these sports romances. And boy, I learnt a lot. I went through a couple of years of serious education about storytelling and writing and romance. But I sold books and I found a readership. And people liked what I did, and I got better. I got better, which is the thing. I read all the romance books I could read voraciously. And I made friends with a ton of romance authors. And I just absorbed myself into what the romance genre is, and I got excited by it. I got excited by it in a way that I've never been excited in the same way with like modern day spy fiction or modern day action adventure fiction, because there's something special about romance. And so I became a better and better writer, and eventually I got to the stage where the books in my MMA series were good. The last couple of books that I wrote in that series were like really good books, and I was proud of them. And then some more of my writer friends were like, hey, MMA is a very, very specific niche. Maybe you should broaden it a bit. Maybe you should. So I wrote the first romance novel that would eventually become the series that I'm writing now. I wrote Trapper. And it was literally a case of me sitting there thinking, okay, what would be a cool idea for a story? And I based the heroine on one of my friends who I absolutely adore, and the hero, I was like, okay, let's imagine he's Chris Pratt, and I'm really into like aeroplanes and the wilderness and stuff like that, so I set it in Alaska, and my friend is diabetic, so I had the heroine be diabetic, and so, you know, they were involved in a plane crash and then had to make it back to civilization, and they had the added challenge of her being a diabetic. And of course they fell in love along the way. And I loved writing it. I loved writing it. And it was also the first book that really like moved the needle. And I became fully invested at this point. I forgot about writing stuff under my own name because I was loving writing these romance books. And it didn't really occur to me. Well, it did. It was like, it's like the elephant in the room. It's like, I'm really enjoying writing these books. These really mean something to me now. But to my readers, I'm Simone Scarlett. What the hell am I going to do? So I did what any self-respecting Englishman does, and that is I just ignored that problem completely and kept writing. So I wrote Trapper, and then I decided to write. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. No Way Out. So I was doing research and saw that motorcycle club romance was hugely popular at the time. This is beginning of 2018, and I was reduced to day job in New York City, so I used to go back and forth on the train, and I had a little purple laptop that cost like $100. It barely operated, but I could type on it. And I started writing this story. I was like, I'll write another romance book. I was like, I was so successful with that last romance book, I'll write another one. And I hear motorcycle club romance is a great genre to be in. And what happened is I went back and forth every single day, writing a couple of hundred, maybe a couple of thousand words of this novel, and eventually it wrapped itself up. And it meant a huge amount to me. The heroine in it I based off a girl I went to school with, the first girl I ever had a crush on. And the hero, I guess I don't know, he wasn't me. I never based any of those heroes on me, because who the hell was I to be a hero in a romance book? That was what I loved about romance as well. Like, there's something about, you know, something about romance heroes that is really refreshing when you come from a world of reading a lot of men's fiction. I'm rabbiting, I'm sorry, I'm just... this video is really difficult for me to make because I'm still utterly terrified that I'm going to confess all of this stuff about being Simone Scarlett, the author, and then immediately everyone's going to finish watching this and be like, let's get the pitchforks, let's get the fire, he was lying to us for all these years. And it terrifies me, and what I'm trying to communicate by making this video is the fact that I'm not just some dude who decided he was going to make a little bit of money publishing and said, hey, those chicks buy romance books, I'll write those. No, I'm 100% invested in what I do as a writer, and I love it. I love telling these stories, and I'm going to get to more of that. And the reason it's so difficult to make this video and it's so terrifying to me is I don't know what I would do if I lost that. Because this book No Way Out, people started to leave reviews, and people were like, "This is good stuff." And then I started writing another one, but the feedback to that one was so good. I was like, okay, I'm going to pause this current book I'm writing, which was, set in England and kind of very close to my own upbringing and things like that. And I was like, I'll write another adventure story. I like that, because I'm starting to get the grain of something here. I grew up loving adventure stories and crime stories and guns and explosions and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed writing romance because of the structure of it, and because romance manages to get the emotions moving in a way that I found a lot of traditional men's fiction didn't. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the action adventure stuff I love and the romance stuff I love, and I'm going to smoosh them together into something scandalous. I went all out. So I wrote the second book in my Motorcycle Club series, which wasn't even a series at this point. And that was the book Sold to the Cartel. And it was a really simple premise. I've got this wonderful friend called Valerie, and she's nothing like the character in the book, but she gave us a huge bottle of tequila once at around that period. And I remember sitting down, having a shot of tequila, and I was like, maybe that's a story in Mexico. Yeah, Mexico. And then I was like, okay, what would be a really scandalous, good, juicy concept? And I was like, what if you had this like terrifying cartel boss, but he was having a change of heart and wanted to do good in his life? And what if you had a girl who was stuck in Mexico, and she managed to like tame this lion? Oh, lion, that's a good one. I'll call him El Leon. And this story came together, and I just went balls out with it. It's like ridiculously sexually explicit, all sorts of strange things go on in it. But it was really fun to write. It was so vivid in my imagination. Like Mendoza's hunting lodge in Mexico, I can literally like see it in my head. And that was the book that really changed everything. Because every day I would toddle downstairs and get the kids ready to go to school, and I'd go to my piece of software called Book Report, and I'd click on it and see how many books I'd sold that day. And when I published this one, it was maybe 10 books a day being sold. That was great. And then I published Sold to the Cartel, and it exploded. It was like hundreds of books a day. People loved it. People really got it, and it changed everything for me, because I was like, holy crap, I really can be a writer. I'm writing stuff that people like. And I remember that summer just feeling so excited by the fact that I had written a book that I just loved the experience of. I created characters who I was really into, and people had bought it, and they liked it, and I was getting reviews, and I was getting fan mail, and I was getting subscribers. I was like, this works. And the problem was, this all worked, but again, it was with the pen name Simone Scarlett. I'd finally become the writer that I'd always dreamed of being, and I was doing it under a pen name. And so once again, I did what any self-respecting Englishman does, and completely ignored that problem. I went to dinner with my wife and a friend, and we went to a wonderful Mexican restaurant called El Toro Loco. Oh, tacos are so good there. And I was like, I really enjoyed writing that last book in Mexico. I'm really enjoying tacos. Maybe I should write this next book in Mexico as well. What's it going to be about there? And that was the book, Beauty and the Biker Boss, where the biker series and Sold to the Cartel smushed together, and that book was really successful as well. And since then I haven't looked back. The next book I wrote was Flint. I remember I was a pub called the Tavern on George with my wife and the same friend, and there was a musician playing live, Lisa Bushell, I think she is. She had a song called Only the Tequila Talking. And as I was listening to that, I was like, that's a great love song. Just imagine, some some guy who's been around the block a few times, and some girl who bursts into his life needing something from him. This would be a good story for them to have their first, a good song for them to have their first dance to. And I wrote this, and this was successful. And from that point on, I was all in on the Knuckleheads Motorcycle Club. And since then, I have written 7 more books in this series, and I'm very close to finishing the next one. And the thing that I find challenging about them is that I have become so much better at writing than I was when I first started writing these novels, and the stories mean so much more to me, and the characters I've become so invested in, and it's like, this is exactly what I've wanted since I was 9 years old, to be writing something that I am so passionate about. And it was just this continuing problem, the elephant in the room of, oh, I'm being successful writing this, but I'm writing it under a female pen name. What happens when my readers find out? And that was the thing that really started to terrify me, because the people who read my books, they were sending me emails, they were writing reviews, they were writing blog posts. It was amazing. I was like, oh my God, how privileged am I? All I wanted to do in my entire life is tell stories, and now I'm writing stories and putting them out there, but people are reading them. These actually mean something to people. It's an incredible realization when that happens. And that's why I just continue to put this problem off. So like, if I ever make a video and be like, hey, I'm Simone Scarlett, are the people who've come with me on this journey, are they going to be like, oh my God, you mean a man wrote these? Or are they going to be, oh my God, he was, I don't know, maybe I'd be a disappointment. Maybe they'd start Googling my name, and I, like, an article I wrote in 2010 would come up that they upset with. Maybe I don't even know what the worst case scenario is, but I'm just terrified of disappointing the people who've read my books and continue to read my books, because they've kept me going through the whole thing. It's been a rough few years with ups and downs, and the one thing I've always had, the one reason I've been able to get out of bed every single day, apart from my kids obviously, is the fact that I am privileged enough to be able to tell these stories and share them with people, and people read them. And every time anybody has ever left a review, or liked a post, or left a comment on a Facebook thing for Simone Scarlett, or sent me an email, you have no idea how much that means to me. You have no idea how grateful and appreciative I am to have made enough of an impact in your life that you will take the time to do any of those things. And yeah, the fact that my readers have made such an incredible impact on my life is why I'm so terrified to lose any of them by failing to live up to their expectations. Never meant to deceive anybody by writing under the pen name Simone Scarlett. It just kind of happened that way. But I've come to the stage now where I don't think I can go on doing things this way. I'm nearly at the end of the next Motorcycle Club book. And it's a story arc that has 3 more books in it that's going to be really satisfying. And the story that I'm trying to tell, I'm really deep into and means such a lot to me. And I don't want to have to give that up. And I'm terrified that if people know that Simone Scarlett was just some English dude living in New Jersey, everything that I built up and everything that means so much to me and everything that has given me such purpose and joy in my life will be taken away from me, because I'm just going to disappoint everybody. But hey, you know what? What the hell? What the hell? I knew at some point I had to do something about the fact that I write under a pen name. And knowing that you have to do something and then not doing something, well, not doing something is doing something in that situation. You're just prolonging it, making it worse. It's like a band-aid that you're trying to peel off. So, there's one reader in particular who made a huge impact on me, and she's Suzanne, my Simone Scarlett's #1 Swedish fan. And she sent me such kind emails and supported me. When I came to write my book High Point, I actually named the ship after her. And High Point was where I realized that at some point in the future I was going to have to make the video that I'm making now. Because that particular book in the Knuckleheads series, first of all, people complained it doesn't contain any motorcycles. I am sorry about that. That's a legitimate complaint. But secondly, the story that I was telling in that meant such a lot to me. But also the opportunity to tell that story, like it was a romance. It is 100% a romance book and a romance story, but also it's an action adventure story, saga, like Clive Cussler used to write. And I remember writing that book, and I remember writing the final chapter, the epilogue. There's a funeral in it, I won't tell you whose, and I actually had tears streaming down my eyes. I was like, this book means something to me. And that's where I set foot on this path that I'm going down of, hey, I need to confess the fact that I'm Simone Scarlett, the author. Because I wanted other people to read that book. So much so that I came up with this bold and ambitious and crazy plan of taking High Point and publishing it as a book targeted at men. It was like, maybe what writing as Simone Scarlett has done has helped me find the one thing I was always missing, which is my voice. Writing books that men might like, but writing them very, very strictly in the structure and pathos of a romance novel. Maybe that's my thing. Maybe the fact that I grew up in a household where there weren't men's books and women's books, there were just books, that I grew up reading books targeted at women and books targeted at men. Maybe the one thing that is special about me, and I don't know if there's anything special about me, but maybe the one thing that I can contribute to the world is creating books that are a Frankenstein between romance and action adventure. And there are plenty of great authors who do that. I'm a friend and a fan of C.B. Samet, who writes the Rider Files series, and I read that. The weird thing is, we even have a character, Mason Stone, who I make a joke about how cliche his name is. We even have a character whose name is in common. So I know there's a space there, and I found my voice with it, and then I'm just like, what do I do now? And so I took High Point and I designed a new cover for it based off Clive Cussler novels, and I wrote to Amazon to check that it was okay, and I spoke to my friends David and Danielle to make sure that I wasn't completely freaking crazy, and then I published my romance book High Point as a action adventure thriller targeted towards men. And the moment I did that, I was like, well, the die is cast. At this point, I have to at some point tell people that Roland Hume and Simone Scarlett are the same person. And it didn't bother me about telling, people who follow me at YouTube or people I work with or my family or anything like that. It bothered me telling the people who have helped me get to this point in my life, the people who have read and supported the author Simone Scarlett. I'm utterly terrified, because I'm terrified because I don't want any of them to feel betrayed or feel like I have been trying to pretend to be someone else, because I really haven't. It's the whole point. It's the whole point. My life is basically just a search for the opportunity to just be me. Because I'm a round peg, and I've spent my entire life with people trying to cram me into square holes. And I think this might be it. I want to write stories as Roland Hume. And I want to write romance stories, believe it or not. And I want to do what I've been successful at doing as Simone Scarlett, and take the beats and formula and structure of a romance book, which I love and I'm passionate about, and spy fiction or something, and mush them together into something that I can write. That's my voice, that's me. And I actually tried it once. Here we go. Cover's wrong, blurb's terrible. Never got very far, but this was the first book in this crazy experiment of mine, Roland Hume's You Only Live Once, which is a romance book that also happens to be a spy thriller. And I was so proud of High Point that I wanted people to read it. My dad read this. I remember one of the happiest moments of my life was when my dad was like, very good, apart from the sex. Like, the book that I'm writing now. I mean, I wrote, so French Kiss and Flint. And I'm writing the next one in that series. Those books I was reading, I'm like, these are romance books. They're unequivocally romance books. However, there's more stuff I think guys would like in here. And I kept thinking about growing up and the fact that, you know, we have books by Jilly Cooper, and my father and I would like fight over who got to read this one next, even though it's a book targeted towards women. Jilly Cooper is just a fantastic writer. Oh, her character in it, Rupert Campbell Black, who's like the big baddie, is just brilliant. And I have to admit, when I started writing my biker books, I had the big bad guy, Coyle, who's the guy in charge of the biker club. He was like my Rupert Campbell Black. He's like a bastard, but he's a magnificent bastard. I enjoy it so much, and it means so much to me. So what I want to do is see if my experiment will actually work. I want to publish my Simone Scarlett books under my real pen name. And the cover is going to be targeted towards men, but the rest of the book is going to be the same. Because I really honestly believe that what I write might have cross-genre appeal. And I couldn't do that unless I came out and admitted to all my readers that I was Simone Scarlett. And so look, I've been going on for half an hour, and I'm sorry. I'll wrap this video up now. But if you are somebody who has ever read a Simone Scarlett book, or written a review, or hit like on a post, I cannot thank you enough for the joy and purpose you have given me in my life. And I just hope that I'm not a disappointment now you find out who I really am. If I'm not, if you are remotely interested in continuing this journey with me, then could you possibly click on that link that I'm going to have in the description or somewhere else, or it'll flash up on screen, I don't know, and give me your email address. And what I'm going to do is have my Simone Scarlett mailing list, which I'll continue to keep kind of hands off with. I'm not going to, talk about. I'm not going to pretend to be anybody I'm not. But then I'm going to also have a list of people where I'm just me, and I want to be able to tell people about the romance books that I've got coming up, because I'm excited about them. I also want to tell people about the books that I write under my own name coming up. I don't know, I just want to be me. I just really want to be me, and I want to continue writing, and I want to tell stories, and I want to connect with people doing this. And I guess I realized that the only way I could do that was by fessing up and acknowledging that, yes, I am Simone Scarlett. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much for ever being a part of Simone Scarlett's writing career and what she does. It really has meant such a lot to me, and hopefully there are going to be people who continue to stick with me even now that I have outed myself as Simone. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me. Bye bye.